So, as we come to the end of our series, towards the end, we've got about one more episode. We've covered a lot. We've talked about what is God. And we said together, say it with me now, that 1 John 4:16 says that God is love. And then we said, why should we love? And we talked about why we should love, and we looked at Jesus' commands and Jesus' life. And we read Matthew 22, and Jesus commands us to love God and love our neighbor. And so we took from that we are commanded as followers of Jesus to love. That to be a true Christian, a true follower of Jesus, means to be someone who loves others radically. And then we asked, who should we love? Right? So we looked at the life of Jesus and looked at who Jesus ate with, who Jesus spent time with, Jesus as God in the flesh. And we're using that to help us learn as people who claim to be followers of Jesus who we should love. And so we saw that Jesus ate with tax collectors and prostitutes and the worst of the worst people, the sinners, the people who the church had rejected. And we said from that study that we are called to love not only people who look like us or think like us or love the same as us, but we are called to love everyone. The people who are marginalized, who are rejected by mainstream society. And so from this study so far, we've already said that we can change the image of Christianity because we've learned that to be a true follower of Jesus means to radically love and serve others, no matter who they are, where they come from, or how they love. And then last video, we looked at what does sin really mean? A lot of times the church has said sinners before, and sin has come to oppress people, and it's come to have a nasty connotation. And in our last video, we talked about what it really means. And sin defined means missing the mark. And so as we looked back at all of the videos that we've done so far, we said the mark is love. That everything that we've studied from the Bible so far tells us that to be a follower of Jesus and to be in the image of God means to love. And so as we talk about sin, we decided that sinning means not loving. Because if we're missing the mark of love, that's how we sin. And so to live like the people that God calls us to be, to live like Jesus, we have to love radically. In the book of Romans, the author Paul wrote to the church in Rome, to the early Christians, and he said this: "This is what I want you to do with the help of God. Take your everyday, walking around, going to work, ordinary life, and place it as an offering before God. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without thinking." And that's what Paul wrote in chapter 12, telling the people there at that time that they should not be so well accustomed to their culture that they fit in. And so as we've gone throughout this series and as we continue for one more episode, the challenge here for us, if we want to be true followers of Jesus, is to not fit in. The world around us is full of hate and discrimination and groups. We have so many categories. We have, in politics, we have conservatives and liberals. We, even in theology, we have black and white. We have citizens and not. And so my question is, Paul's asking us as well, should we have all of these categories? Do we have to fit one? Do we have to be one or the other? I think that just like in Genesis, like we talked about, that distancing of relationship, that when we are loving like Jesus commands us, we live in a beautiful community. That when we truly follow Jesus and love all people, whether we're conservative or liberal or black or white or any color or from any country or any citizenship status or lack thereof, we are the people of God and we have been called to love. And so not fitting in going against what our friends say at work, or what people think at church, or the people that we just meet on the street. Going against that is good, because that means that we're not fitting into a culture of hate, because that's what's become of our world. And so to be a true follower of Jesus, we've learned from Paul's letter to Rome in chapter 12 that we can't fit in. So as we talk about what it looks like to live like Jesus lived, what it actually looks like to be a follower of Jesus, it can't just be this video. It can't just be talk or going to church or talking with our friends, and it has to be something active. So that's my challenge to you, is to take this time to each of us, for each of us, to use this time now out of our lives to look at what we do and to say, how can I serve others today? How can I love others? What does your community need right now? What can Christians do there? How can you transform the world right there by being the hands, feet, and mouth of God? And so, as we talk about what it looks like to live like Jesus lived, it comes down to us today. What will we do from here? How will we be changed? Who will we serve? How will we serve them? So I encourage you to take this time to look at the needs of your community. Is there a soup kitchen or a homeless shelter or someone who doesn't feel welcome to church that you could go and invite them? Maybe someone who's elderly and can't make it to church. What can you do to help the needs of the community around you? What can you do to live like Jesus lived? And so it's my hope that together, with each of us doing this, each of us reevaluating our lives and what it means for us to call ourselves Christians, there will be people around the world doing this, that we will live like Jesus and we will bring the kingdom here. Because in Revelation chapter 22, we see the new heaven, the new Jerusalem come down to earth. A lot of people think that we go on to glory, that our whole point in life is just to pass through the earth and get to heaven. But Revelation paints a different picture. After the hate and harm of this world has disintegrated, when we've done our job of changing this world with the help and Spirit of God, then the new Jerusalem comes down. This kingdom of God is something that we build here with God. So the kingdom of God comes to earth when hate and evil and despair and discrimination and inequality is gone. When the people of God have been used by God to bring this kingdom. And how does that come? It comes through love. It comes through us living like the person who we claim to follow, living like Jesus. And so to bring this new Jerusalem, we have to take this time to reevaluate our lives and to do just what we're asking right now. To say, how can we each be the hands and feet and voice of Jesus in the world? So what does the life of Jesus look like? Well, I hope that it looks a lot like us pretty soon. And that pretty soon this whole world will feel like and look like the kingdom of God, the place that God intends it to be. And we can be the people that God intends us to be. And it all starts right here with us, right now, each one of us committing ourselves to do this, to actively change at first small parts of our lives. Where can we take an hour here and an hour there, and then transform that? How can we lead others to do the same? And so in our next video, we're gonna talk about how love can transform the world. But for now, it begins with us, each of us. You are made in the image of God, and you have the power of God dwelling inside you. Now it's up to you and me to use that, to bring the kingdom here. So as we take this entire life of Jesus, as we look at Jesus' birth, Jesus' life, Jesus' death and resurrection, we're asked the question, how can love transform the world?